All right, and today's Monday's AgriTalk for Monday, November 2nd. I cover three markets: soybeans, live cattle, and lean hogs. Before I jump into the analysis for today's show, just a reminder, you've obviously already clicked on the AgriTalk link at the top. If you could go to the bottom, fill out that free trial form. If you've never had a free trial or if you haven't had one in 6 months, I do offer 2 weeks every 6 months. Would love for you to take it for a test ride. It also involves, or includes rather, a call with me. We could go over analysis and some of the markets that you're covering, so forth and so on. Anyway, let's jump to soybeans. First and foremost, we've got a buy signal that played out in late August above this long-term channel top, at the time mentioning 1140 and 3/4, or this 1140 and 3/4 channel top, as at the time a 3 to 5 month target. So it's actually kind of playing out as expected. We've backed off a bit last week. In the interim, we have 992 and 3/4 that, if tested, say over the next few weeks, can absorb selling really through the rest of the year. And once this level is tested, the market can regroup and push onward to 1140 and 3/4. So that 5 months from, let's just call it September 1st, would put us into January, February under that scenario. Are we going to test 992 and 3/4? That's also a question. If you're a near-term trader trading the 2 to 3 week time horizon, for instance, we do have an intermediate support preceding that at 1040 and 3/4. And this is a formation that can absorb weekly selling pressures. And in fact, holding above this 1040 and 3/4 formation, or once tested, the 1140 and 3/4 overall objective, holding above that 1040 and 3/4, will keep this in reach between now and the end of November. So once again, this formation able to contain weekly selling pressures, possibly good into later November, and above which that overall 1141 or 1140 and 3/4 objective in reach between now and the end of November. On the other hand, if we close the week below 1040 and 3/4, then expect 2 to 3 weeks bearish continuation down to this 992 and 3/4 speed line, where once again we can bottom out really through the rest of the year, possibly into later winter. And in fact, as I say, above which this 1140 and 3/4 formation in reach over the next 2 to 3 months. Once again, we've got a bit of a stair-step situation here, but I just want to underscore the fact that when we settled in late August above this 940 and 1/4 formation, the 1140 and 3/4 became a longer-term objective. Now, if we test 1140 and 3/4 over the coming weeks, it is a formation that can absorb buying into spring, summer of next year. It's also a significant upside continuation point well into next year. But I would expect this to hold at least on a monthly basis. But who knows? If we take it out, secondary buying should play out well into next year. I think that's about all that needs to be said. If I were to leave you with sort of the next 3 to 5 month outlook, 992 and 3/4, able to contain selling into later winter, and above which this overall target at 1140 and 3/4 expected between now and February, where we can top out, as I say, into spring, summer. And I also will leave you with this, that if we hold above 1040 and 3/4, a formation that can contain selling into November expiration, that 1140 and 3/4 level in reach between now and the end of November. And by the way, this is January. I think I said November a couple times. We are now in January contract analysis. Let's move on to live cattle. This is kind of refresher on the show. I've been mentioning, really following a July buy signal above this long-term speed line, trend defining, I might add, that's using the 2014 high against the 2020 low. It came down into this vicinity in later July, and we had the buy signal at that time indicating several months, 3 to 5 months, bullish continuation into the 123 handle. Now, this market is still likely to test the 123 handle resistance, but we've obviously been in a bit of a pause here with this two-sided activity over the last several months. And we did hold longer-term support last week, which is a convergence between this long-term speed line and an ascending channel bottom that includes the April low. And that this week is at 101.77 to 102.57. It is a floor of support that can absorb selling through winter trade. And as I say, above which the 123.07 formation is likely by spring or sooner. Now, we could continue trading two-sided in this vicinity for weeks to come. And then the question is, are we going to get any upside acceleration on our way to 123.07, which is now still sort of 2 to 3 months out, maybe 3 to 5 months out? And the answer to that is yes. We've got a 113.05 channel top that's coming down a little bit every week. It is actually in reach over the next week or two, and it can absorb buying through November into December trade. From here, we could easily fall back into the 102 handle long-term support. But given the fact that we remain bullish and stable, really, stable to bullish above, let's just call it the 102 handle support, in anticipation of 123 handle over the coming months, a settlement above this 123 handle resistance, this 113.05 channel top shouldn't come as a great surprise. And if we close above 113.05, in the coming week, 2 or 3, then the 123.07 formation is likely within a matter of 3 to 5 weeks, couple months at the most. This would put us into late year, where I might add 123.07 can contain buying into spring, summer of next year. So if I were to leave you with kind of the 2 to 3 month, 3 to 5 month outlook, we have a 102 support that can absorb selling through winter, above which the 123 handle is likely into late winter, early spring. And if we settle above 113.05, that channel top I showed you just a moment ago, then it accelerates within 3 to 5 weeks or so, where the 123 handle can contain buying into spring, summer of next year. I will add, and I don't have any illustrations, but if we were to close below 101.77 at the end of this week, then 89.25, the high of this low from April, would be expected over the next few months, where we can bottom out through the balance of winter trade. And finally, lean hogs. This is still the December contract. It'll be rolling to February in the coming weeks, but it still reflects December. And just a refresher here that, in early September, this market did post a meaningful buy signal above this descending channel top at 57.37, anticipating the 77.60 formation over the coming, at the time it was 2 to 3 months. It still is in effect, but we just might fall back into the 57 handle over the coming weeks, and that would be signaled only if we close the week below 63.92, which is an ascending speed line. So, this is not altogether different than the soybean analysis I showed you a moment ago, where we have an ascending speed line at 63.92 that can absorb selling really through November, and above which this 77.60 longer-term target is likely to be realized, I'm going to say, over the next 3 to 5 weeks. From here, we can turn up, and by the end of November into mid-December, this 77.60 formation is in reach, and it can actually absorb buying into spring of next year. 63.92, though, if settled below at the end of this week, December contract, would then indicate likely bearish continuation down to the 57.37 longer-term channel top, which can, by the way, contain selling through winter trade. And once we test it, I'll then begin talking again about 77.60 as an overall possibility. But let's face it, if we close below 63.92, it's taken a lot of wind out of the sails here. And while 57.37 can then contain selling through the balance of winter trade, we would then be looking for the next buy signal that would indicate 77.60. I'm going to also mention that if this market does close above 77.60, say between now and the end of December, then 100.17 becomes a realistic, I'll say 3 to 5 month target. So let's say by the end of December we close above 77.60. Spring, early summer of 2021, the 100 handle then in reach, where we can top out through next year. And I do believe that's all that needs to be said for this week's AgriTalk video. So do yourself a favor. Fill out the free trial form on this website. Take that 2-week test drive. You've nothing to lose and much to gain.